Again, I'm Chase Paxman. I'm a product manager at Arbiter Sports. I handle all of our payment products when it comes to schools making payments or assigners making payments, anyone signing up for a pay account as an official or a worker, try to make things run smoothly. And today I'll be covering the experience that y'all will have as schools when you're making payments, working with your schedules to make those payments, and following up with the officials and workers that you're trying to pay, and also just managing your Arbiter Pay account more generally. So let's get into it. I'm sure that many of you do already have Arbiter Pay accounts, but I wanted to show you this page first, just in case you don't, or maybe you've got one, but it's not linked. So for schools that don't have anything set up on the pay side, when they go to the payroll tab and the account sub tab, this is what they'll see, kind of a blank state where you can either set up a new pay account or link an existing pay account. If you already have an Arbiter Pay account that you know your school or district has paid from in the past, you can click Link Existing Pay Account, type in the username, and link it with your 4-digit PIN. If you don't have one, you can set up a new one from this button here. When you choose Set Up a New Account and click Continue, it's going to kick off a process that will ask you for some information on your business, so that would be your school or potentially the district. Sometimes you're signing up under the district's name and address, and that is just fine if that's the case. You'll fill out the name, TIN, address. We'll do a quick check to see that that is all matches the way that we would expect. As long as it does, we'll move you on to a personal information step. This is where you would type in your personal information, your name and your address is really all that we ask for. And we verify that you are a legit person. We don't save any of that personal information. We just need to know that we're working with a real person. So when you type in your name and address, we would run that through our verification service. If it comes back positive, then we just move on. We don't save any of it. And we just go on to the final step of the process, which is to make your PIN. So you set your 4-digit PIN, and that PIN is going to be really important for anything that you do on your account. You'll need that 4-digit PIN to make a payment. You'll need the PIN to transfer money in or out of your account. Anything that you're doing with payments, you'll need that 4-digit PIN, and you set that when you sign up for your account. If you forget it, there's a way to recover it. You can go through the forgot PIN process, which is very similar to like a forgot password process. Reset it via email. But if you are setting it then then you'll want to make sure to remember it. I'm not going to go through the whole setup process here just to save some time. But assuming that it all goes well, you'll drop on a page that looks something like this. You'll have your Arbiter Pay account show up on the left. It's going to show $0 initially, and that's just fine. You can fund that. You also will see below here the banks that you've added onto your Arbiter Pay account, and those banks can be added or removed as much as you would like. You just use this plus sign right here to add a new bank. Again, it'll ask for your PIN. Anytime you're doing anything on your account, type in those 4 numbers, and then you can go ahead and add a bank account. So this would be like a district or school bank account that you want to draw funds from and maybe cash out to at the end of the year. In some cases, you'll be able to do this. You'll be able to add the account. And when I say in some cases, some schools will let you give you access to the account as the financial administrator or athletic director or whatever the case might be. And in those cases, you can just add it easy and then start uploading funds. Other times, the district or the school will have some restrictions or won't want to give every individual school access to a bank account to draw funds from, or maybe there's just not approval to do ACH transfers in your area. If that's the case, you can also fund through some other methods, and I can go through that here. So you can add a bank. Once you do that, you can fund there. Assuming this is $0 to start, we would then go to transfer money to fund our account with the funds that we'll be paying our officials and workers throughout the year. Again, type in the PIN to confirm. and then you'll see the transfer money modal. You can choose, like I've mentioned, you can transfer to and from your account. So you have to choose where you want to transfer from. If we want to fund our account, we choose our bank, and then we're going to transfer to Arbiter Pay. And that's going to be a simple upload of funds. It's going to take 3 to 4 business days to clear. And just a tip on that, the earlier in the day you get this request through, if you are funding in this way, the better. You'll cut off a day of processing there if you get it in the morning. Kind of the day resets for us around 1 p.m. Mountain Time is usually about when we process those uploads. So if you are before that cutoff, it'll save you a day in processing time when you're trying to fund your account. As I mentioned before, there are other ways to fund your account. If you want to fund by check, that is a common way to do it. You can just send us a check. You can also fund by wire if you need the money more quickly. This would be from your bank account, so you would need access to bank information. But the fund by wire option is for those that need to go a little bit more quickly to get the funds. If you click on either of these, it goes to the same link, which is just over here in Arbiter Pay. And it goes through the 4 options that you have to fund your Arbiter Pay account with money and the timelines associated with them, any fees associated with them. Again, Arbiter, you can just do it directly from Arbiter, as I've shown you there. You can add a bank, upload from that bank. That's the easiest way to do it, and pretty consistent way of doing it as well. We definitely suggest that if possible, but if that's not possible, then there are the 3 other options of an ACH directly from your bank. That will be a little bit faster. You can do a wire, which is immediate pretty much, and there is a fee associated with that. You can do that directly from your bank, or you can send us a check. If you do that, then make sure that you use this address right here and you fill out our deposit slip and include that with the check that you're sending. There's also a $5 processing fee associated with funding via check. So all of that information is here. You can get to that page by just clicking transfer money and then choosing one of these options. If you're interested in seeing the timelines on how long it will take for those transfers to happen, you can also click transfer schedules. That's going to open up a new tab as well. That'll show you some information there. Once you are ready to execute the upload, maybe you need $10,000 and you want to do that at the beginning of your season, you would just click transfer, and then immediately on your list or on your transaction history here, it's going to show up. You'll see that it's pending. That's going to be pending for 3 to 4 business days. And then once that clears from our side, then your available balance will reflect that $10,000 upload. So, but it is nice to see that, you know, when you transfer your money, you're going to see it show up on your transaction history right away. So this is something you could get to this point in the process pretty quick. You don't have an Arbiter Pay account to right to here. In about 30 minutes, you could sign up for Arbiter Pay, add your bank account, and then initiate an upload of $10,000 or whatever you need to fund your season. You could do that in about 30 minutes if you don't have anything set up. Then there is going to be a waiting period of seeing that money clear. But once it's cleared, then you can start making payments on your schedule, which is what I'm going to get into next. I'll kind of pause there for a second and just mention, if you have any questions, you can pop in the chat on your team's client, and Zane is here to kind of assist with some of those questions. So I'll kind of slow down for a second here. If there are any questions about this page, the funding process, adding a bank account, or viewing your transaction history, that's really all that's done before you kind of get into the actual payment of schedules. All right. Feel free to use that chat function throughout this call, though. Zane will be quick on the draw to answer your questions, and we'll probably stay on a little bit afterwards to continue answering questions. So let's imagine now that we've waited a few days and that these funds have cleared. I've got my money. We're ready to go. At that point, it would just be the process of actually making the payments to your officials and workers. So I've set up a few games here that are kind of test dummy games for baseball and football. And these are on Friday, August 12th. So assuming these were happening over last weekend, and we were now ready to start paying the officials associated with the game. There have been a few other webinars that we did earlier this week and last week that kind of walked through the scheduling portion of this. So officials showing up on the game correctly, assigning workers to games, accepting contracts with the assigner or with away teams or the opposing team, score entry, all of that kind of has been covered. So I'm going to kind of just gloss over that. Assuming all of that's been done nicely, we're ready for payment. If you do have any questions on the scheduling side of things, we will also be posting those webinars on our YouTube channel as well. So just take a look out for that. So now that the game has happened, we have our one worker on the game, our announcer, and our 4 officials on the junior varsity game and 5 officials on the varsity game, or 6 officials on the varsity game. We're ready to pay. You can, if you would like to, adjust the game fee, travel fee, and per diem right here. That's also something you can do on the payments page if you'd like, but and that's where we'll do it. So you can make the changes here, but let's just jump right into the payments page. When you click on the payroll tab, it's going to take you to the page where everything should queue up. We were looking on the schedule page previously, and we saw our 12 workers. We had 6 officials on one game, 4 officials on the other game, and 1 worker on each. So for a total of 12. And all 12 of those flowed in really nicely to this page. Sometimes you will find that it doesn't work that nicely or seamlessly. If there's ever times where you're seeing somebody on your schedule tab on a game, but then when you click on payments, they're not showing up here, there will be a few things that you can go through to troubleshoot that. Typically, it's going to be communication with the assigner on the game. It may be the case that the official didn't accept the game, and that's why they're not showing up. They do need to accept the game assignment if it's in the case of an official to show up here. It's possible that the game is actually in the future, so maybe there was a misclick or something, and the game is actually showing up in the future, and because you can only pay for past games, there might be a few things like that. But typically, it's going to be a setting issue on the assigner's side. So if Scott Pierce wasn't showing up here and you knew that Scott was your head ref for your junior varsity game, you would want to reach out to the assigner associated with that game and say, hey, Scott's not showing up. Everyone else on the game is showing up, but Scott is not showing up. Could we get that fixed? And then the assigner can take care of whatever settings they need to change to make that happen. Usually it's because they have just designated the wrong payer on the game for that official. Other times you might see a game just not show up at all. Maybe your junior varsity game doesn't show up at all and your varsity game is the only thing showing. It's going to be a similar process. Reach out to the assigner and say, hey, could you check the payer for the junior varsity game? Varsity game looks good, but JV is not showing up. So that will be a common thing that will come up. Just communication with the assigner will be helpful there. If there's any trouble that you're still having, feel free to reach out to our support team and we can assist and help you prevent that that issue from coming up in the future. There will be a few different tags on this page for officials' payment status. Most of these here, as you can see, are ready to pay. It may be the case that some of these are coming through like this. So maybe the assigner is the one who can kind of predetermine or set the game fees that come in by default when the assignment is made. And it's possible that the assigner, or maybe the assignment was made by you at the school. And if that's the case, that's fine too. But when the assignment is made, it's possible that the game fee, travel, and per diem all total 0. And you cannot make a payment for something that is 0. You'll have to adjust that after the fact. So in this case, junior varsity came across as 0. Varsity has the fees in it. Obviously this is going to be more than a penny, but usually come across, $50, $75, whatever you pay your varsity officials. So if the total is 0, we'll notify you of that here. If you hover over the box to pay, it'll let you know why you can't pay. Another reason why it may not be ready to pay is because the official doesn't have a pay account. So in this case, Bart would need to sign up for Arbiter Pay on their side before you can make a payment. So the ball's in his court to sign up. You would have to reach out to Bart and let him know if you wanted some of Bart's contact information. You could go back to your schedule, open up the junior varsity game, and then click on Bart's name. And again, because this is a test account, I've only got an email on there, and it's a fake email. Typically, you're going to see a profile picture, a name, a email address, phone number, potentially an address if they make that public. So you'll have a lot of contact information here if you need to reach out to Bart and let them know that they need to sign up for Arbiter Pay if they want to get paid for the game that they just worked. Once they've done that, then they'll show up as ready to pay, and it shouldn't be much of a problem at all from there. It's pretty straightforward. So let's go ahead and change these two. So we'll again, it's typically going to be you know, a higher payment than this, but we'll adjust that here. Okay, so now most people are ready to pay. One thing also that I'll point out here is that for Indiana, we have them as the announcer for the varsity and JV games that happened this last Friday. You'll see that you cannot itemize travel and per diem for event workers. So it's not applicable for them. They really just get a game fee. That's not something that we support yet. It has been kind of requested here and there to pay travel or pay a per diem to event workers. Sometimes event workers will be something like the chain crew or personal trainers or something like that maybe have to travel with the team and they want gas money or whatever the case might be. For now, you'll just have to kind of bake that into the game fee, but perhaps in the future we will allow you to itemize their pay in a similar way to what we have for officials. But that will come across in the same way with a penny to be paid there. And then I guess let me just make sure I'm going through the list here of things I wanted to point out before we actually make the payment. Okay, I've shown you how to make fees. Okay, let me show you the approved column. So there may be times where at your school or district you need kind of a two-step process before you make a payment. Somebody has to go in there and approve the payment before another person will then check the box and click make payment. Or even if it's like just yourself, you just want to say, you know, I've reviewed this game and I approve it and I know that that one's good to go. So I'll click the approve button and then that'll put my name on it. And I know that that's something that I've reviewed and I don't need to come back to it. So that there may just be a little checklist for you in your head, and that you can then put on paper here, or it may be a two-step process where there's approval from somebody and then a payment. Sorry about that. I got a phone call from our support client and somehow hung up on both of these calls. But yeah, so you can give approval for the games with this. If you want to unapprove, you just click on your name again, and that will flip it back to just say approve. And so you can utilize that column however you want. There's no actual functionality behind it. So if you, it's not like you can't pay until you approve or anything like that. It's just that it's really just like as a checkbox or a marker there. The other thing that I wanted to show was managing the columns that show on this page. You can see by default, we get plenty of information about the game, but there may be times where you want to add a little bit more. So in that case, you can, well, I guess first of all, you can download a CSV if you just want that in Excel, just an export of everything that you see here, or you can add additional columns by clicking the Edit Columns button. This will let you not only add columns, but also you can reorder if you just prefer a different order. You can click and drag here to say, oh, well, I want to show the payee's name last or something like that. You can also add additional columns. So these are things that don't show by default, but you could add if you're interested in seeing this information on your payments page, just for a little bit more detail. You can see who the payer is. Could be a little bit redundant because it's typically always going to be you or your school. You can show the away teams. The event category is going to say if it's a sporting event or a non-athletic event, like an assembly or a band or something like that. Game ID could be helpful when communicating with the assigner. They often will drive off of game IDs. The game status, if it's normal, canceled, rain out, postponed. And then you've got a few more things down here related to where it's being played. One that I'll show you, though, is score. If this is interesting to you, you could use it. I'll add the score. When I click save, it's just going to pop in at the end there, as expected. If I wanted to enter the score for this game, I could do it from this page as well. I'm sure you've seen from the schedule page where you can enter a score for a game. But if you want to do that as part of the payment, if that matters to the payment process at all, you can add it here. I know that there are some schools that would prefer not to pay the officials until the score has been entered. So you can reach, if there's no score, you could reach out to Scott as the head ref and say, hey, you got to enter the score on the game before we're going to pay you and your crew. Or you could just enter it for them from this page. So the score was 21 to 35, and there's your score. It'll update every row associated with the game. So it kind of looks a little bit redundant there. It's not necessarily the primary place in which you'll be entering or editing scores, but it is an option for you if you want to use it. And I think that's everything that I wanted to show on this page before we make a payment. Actually, sorry, just one more thing. There are a few filters that we have up here too. So you can filter by date, pretty straightforward. You can filter by sport, also straightforward if you just want to cut down the list of things that you're seeing. We're only seeing football here, so that isn't really applicable. And then you can also use this search. The search bar will only search on payee name. So if I type in like varsity, then it won't filter down by level. But if I typed in Scott or Gary, then it would filter down by the payee's name. So if you have a long list of officials or you're getting a specific request from one official or worker, you can type in their name here to see what comes up. With all that in mind, I think we're good to make the payment now. So check the box to, I can check the box at the top to check everybody on the list that is available to pay. It will leave out those that are not ready because they don't have an Arbiter Pay account. And then I can click make payment. I could also just hover over this and click make payment individually. That works just as well. When I click make payment, it's going to check my account to see that I have sufficient funds. So it pulls in my available balance, $165. It does a calculation of how many officials I'm about to pay and the total amount that I'm going to pay them, 10 cents. And then it does a calculation of the processing fees that I'm going to be charged. And that's $12.15. So if this number was lower than my available balance, it would not let me click pay, but we're good to go here. You can ignore that. So undefined, this is kind of a little bit of a bug that we're dealing with lately. You can ignore this for now. I'll just type in a fake PIN for now. But this is going to be going away, so don't worry too much about this. It will stay undefined for now, but we'll be getting that fixed. So yeah, you can review the payments here. I don't think there's anything necessarily else to show. Oh, if you have multiple Arbiter Pay accounts and you want to pay from a different one, you can switch that with that drop down. But it's pretty straightforward to just make the payment. Again, type in your PIN. Very important to remember that, and then you can click OK. It'll process the payment. It'll let me know that it's working on it, and then it'll refresh the page. You'll notice that at first the payments will come across as processing like this. It takes like less than a minute to process this number of payments. If you were making 100 payments, you might refresh the page and still see that some of them were processing. But in this case, with us only making 10 payments, it's going to be done as soon as I refresh the page. So if I refresh the page now, all of these processing payments are going to be gone and have moved over to history. So now I only have the 2 that I wasn't able to pay. If I flip over to history here, I can see my paid accounts here. We're also dealing with this thing right now where the columns are not really showing up the way that they should here. But let me just add a few on this page, I'll just add the pay and the game date, just so we can see. So we can see our officials that show up. We're going to get that fixed too. The default columns should not just be status and payment date. There should be a lot more than that. So we'll clean that up. But you can see that these are the officials that we were paying from the payments side, the payments tab. And that's pretty much it. I will show you just, if you wanted to confirm in a different way, so you can see the history tab here of all the payments that you just made. But if you wanted to confirm, like, okay, well, what's my Arbiter Pay available balance now that I've made that payment? You can click on the accounts tab, and that's going to show my transaction history. So I can then confirm really quickly. There's my payment to Mark, there's my payment to Gary, and so on. And then the associated processing fee shows up as well. All of those go right to executed, so they're not going to be in pending like that upload from earlier. They just go right to executed. And then, accordingly, I'll see my kind of running available balance go down, and then my current available balance is $152. So if you wanted to confirm that the payment worked and check to see what the result was on your Arbiter Pay transaction history, you can click on the accounts tab to quickly see that. One more thing that I'll show is there may be times where you will underpay an official or pay the wrong official, or something comes up where you need to just send a quick payment to an official and it's not associated with a game. If that comes up, Simple Pay is the correct tool for that situation. Click on the payment button over here once you get to the Simple Pay page, and then you can just type in the official's name here on Search Payee. You will see a list come up from your search. I have a bunch of test accounts here that are showing my name. In some cases, it will say no Arbiter Pay account. So I can't pay this official because they don't have an Arbiter Pay account linked. If they do have an email address showing up under their name, that means that they do have an Arbiter Pay account linked. So I'll go ahead and click one with an Arbiter Pay account. You can type in the amount that you need to pay them, and then type in your PIN. You can also itemize this if you want. You can associate it with a specific sport if that matters, and you can add a note just for categorization purposes. If you want to pay out of a different account, you can do that as well. Once you're ready to pay, you can either choose pay now or pay later. If I click pay later, it's just going to queue it up for me to pay later. This $ will be black. It will turn green once I actually make the payment. In order to make a payment on a pay later item, I just check the box and then click pay. It's going to ask for my PIN one more time. Once I type that in, it's going to execute the payment, and it will actually move the money from my account to the officials. So I'm not going to actually execute it here, but that's the way of handling a simple payment like that. And that's really all I had to show as far as the payment processes are concerned for the school side of things. There may be some times where things don't go as expected, if things aren't showing up on the list like they should, or the wrong official is paid, but those can be cleaned up by communicating with the assigner, using Simple Pay, adjusting the fees here, and that sort of thing. So I think that kind of covers it, but